Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar series. I'm so happy you join us either live or you're watching this recording. We have a lot of great information to share today, and I want to allow enough time for Sophia to give her little peek insight because part of what I've realized, and with my other coaches with Screen Time Clinic, because we do so much grassroots work within our community, we do parent coaching, and we also talk with therapists, and we also put booths out and give presentations. So we're in a position where we hear a lot of feedback from parents and also professionals. And when I was talking with Sophia, she lives in the same San Diego that I do. And I was talking with her and I said, so many parents do not believe that they can keep social media from their teens or even their tweens, that they would be totally harming them. They really believe that it's like a myth that somebody like Sophia exists that didn't have social media until 16, or even a lot of people that I know don't have social media at all, that their parents didn't allow it. And how is this possible? And I'm so happy to have Sophia here today because at Screen Time Clinic, we work with parents, particularly to do digital detoxes. And that involves removing all access to this outside stimuli and really allowing children and teens to recalibrate in the real world, to work on their human skills, to reconnect with parents and find new friends, find new activities, just totally help their neurological reset and that dopamine reset. And part of that is getting off social media and abstaining from gaming. And I just want to take a moment. And then after the reset, a lot of parents decide, oh my gosh, my kid's actually flourishing. This isn't harming them. Like, I can see how we can do this for a long time. So I wanted to bring Sophia in here today to talk about her experience. So we can point to this example of, it is possible. It's not going to harm them. They can grow up and be really well functioning young adults. And strangely enough, kids overcoming obstacles in real life actually help them grow their self-confidence, and working through these little things of like, someone has something, I don't have it. How am I going to function? And how is this impacting me? And what kind of person do I want to be? Kids are putting together all these data points in real life, and they really need these opportunities to see how they can thrive in the real world. So, Sophia, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm
And
happy that you're having me on.
yeah, you're welcome. Why don't you give just a little recap about you? You're a sophomore right now in college, right?
Going into my junior year.
Going into your junior year. Oh my gosh, that's right. So
I'm
you've
excited.
had plenty of time, and tell us where you go and what you're studying, just so we know the real you.
So, hi everyone. I'm Sophia. I'm entering my junior year at San Diego State. I'm studying marketing. I got my first iPhone when I was 15, but wasn't allowed social media until I was 16. So, we have a lot to unpack here, and I'm ready to get started.
Awesome. So, all right. So, reflecting on your childhood, what benefits do you think you gained from not having a smartphone before age 15? And before I maybe ask you that, you were not probably happy about not having a smartphone. Is that true?
Yes.
This
So,
was not of your own choosing, correct?
always wanted a smartphone. I probably started asking when I was 12, 13 years old. Finally secured it at 15, and then one more year until I could finally get on the apps that everyone was on. So I was waiting for a while.
And pestering your parents and wanting it and wanting it.
Yeah.
But looking back, what do you think you kind of gained overall? What's your biggest takeaway of like, wow, I'm glad I because you are glad that you didn't have it. Is that correct?
I'm very happy with the way I turned out. I think that I gained creativity for the most part. There's so much creativity gained from not having a smartphone at your fingertips. Without a smartphone, I was basically forced to use my imagination and think of ways and do activities that would keep me fulfilled and happy. There's also a lot of independence that comes with it. If I don't have immediate access to information, I learned that I can solve my own problems. I also feel that when you have so much time on your hands without a smartphone, you're more willing to do physical activities and activities that you wouldn't do separately. So when I didn't have an iPhone, my parents would enroll me in all sorts of programs like sports, entrepreneurship, coding, acting, singing, piano, guitar. And it was just a really great way for me to be creative and not depend on a device.
Yeah. And there was probably less resistance to doing these activities because you were maybe a little bored and like, okay, well, I might as well.
I'm excited to go to acting, to Balboa Park and see people and, spend some time away from my parents, spend some time with people my own age that also probably didn't have phones at that age either. I think this was around 12 or 13. People started to get them at 14.
And I do see that myself as a former teacher of middle schoolers and with my own sons and even the people that I work with through Screen Time Clinic. It's interesting how teenagers and youngsters glom on to those who are doing the same digital thing. So all the kids playing Roblox and Minecraft, that's all they were talking about, and all the girls that had social media, they were all scrolling together. And like with toddlers, we call it parallel play, where you're kind of playing with balls and blocks in the same space, maybe not with each other, but that's not appropriate to be so isolated and so parallel when you're a teenager. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, you're missing the connection. It's right in front of you. I feel like the best time to be creative and use your imagination is when you're most able to, your youngest years. You have so much of it. It's right there. Why would you waste it looking online when you have your whole life to do that?
And it also helps you calibrate like your own skills and meet people of your similar interests. Did you find that you could really, I think you said it before, that you had a more variety of interests because you weren't fixated on social media?
While not all of these hobbies stuck with me, many did, and these activities kept me occupied without needing a device. So it definitely helped, and it made me more versatile as a person, gives me more to talk about now, and I can connect with so many more people because of all the different activities that I was involved in when I was younger.
And would you say not all activities you wanted to go to, that there were probably times where like, no, I don't want to sign up for that. I don't want to do that.
Very much so. The entrepreneurship, the coding, the acting, the guitar and piano, those weren't my favorites. Volleyball is what stuck out to me the most, and that's what I carried on with, but it was still good that I went.
Yeah, yeah. And that's else like we want input from our children, but we also want to guide them. And because children's frontal lobes are not fully developed, we always tell parents be their frontal lobe, think for them, get them into activities. Just like a toddler doesn't want to go to preschool, doesn't want to detach from their parent. Like teens really don't want to get out of their comfort zone, especially if they have a device to comfort them. But anything uncomfortable, it's helpful for them to give that push and guidance, right?
Many times I would be crying before my parents would drop me off at these things. It would be almost the worst thing in the world. I remember when they signed me up for junior lifeguards, which maybe a lot of parents are familiar with, I would kick and scream, pretend like I was sick. I hated it until I'd come back cheerful. My parents would be like, this happens every time. They'd try to remind me this is just the beginning, but it never worked. So you just need enough of that to realize that your parents were right.
I remember even with my own son, he was in rowing and I would pick him up in high school and he would say, oh, I can't go today. I have a stomach ache. I had too much to do. I'm like, okay, well, you're going. And if it's really that much of a problem, you can sit and watch your teammates, but you are a part of doing this. This is something we committed to. You must physically be there. So, and then like you said, it gets better. Even with junior lifeguards, you have to jump off the pier. Did you do that?
I wish I did. I did. I screamed a little too much for that day.
Yeah. Well, but with all these activities, I mean, they're adult supervised, they're adult led. So they make adjustments, but it's being around peers of your same age. It's being around adults, taking direction from other adults. There's all these little human qualities that are getting totally missed in childhood these days, with kids just being on their screens and being at home and made to feel so comfortable that they're literally uncomfortable in their own skin. Um, Tell me about, can you give me some examples of like high school behaviors then that you saw once you did start having social media? Like, how did that kind of change um, your interactions with friends or your choices? How was that? How did that come about?
I would say compared to my friendships now, being fully immersed with social media, I was able to have more privacy and boundaries. I think that's the biggest thing. So before 16, my private life remained private, and there were healthy boundaries that I wasn't even aware that there were. So this helped me maintain my personal space. If I didn't have to share with the class, no one would know type of thing. And I remember when I grew up, I was a little bit more reserved. I wouldn't really share too much unless I was asked. And it's funny looking back, I would go sit at lunch with my friends and look around and be like, no one knows that I went to Mexico this summer. Like, no one has to know because it wasn't on social media. I didn't have a phone. And if you don't bring it up, you don't need to. So it's very different than how it is now. I feel like everyone knows everything that I'm doing. If it's posted, it's on there. And if I didn't post about it, it's like it didn't happen almost.
And you felt comfort in that privacy of that you had control over what you were talking about and you didn't feel that you had to post anything before you had it.
Exactly. I had never felt any type of pressure, especially like right when I got social media. I was just posting when I wanted to, lip sync videos, selfies with my friends. But now it's very much more curated. You know that anybody could be watching. There's a larger audience, and I just have way more intel on social media now. So I'm very careful about what I post.
And do you think you're more careful about what you post now as a young adult because you were older when you were given access to it? And I assume there were parameters that your parents set when you did have it at age 16 even.
Yeah, so I had very strict app restrictions. There were certain apps that I couldn't be on, even on the App Store. Like most of the apps were blocked. And at first, I was just like, Dad, you're crazy. Like, look at my phone. I can't do anything. You've given me this little box, and all I can do is take pictures and listen to music. But you form more creativity like that. I remember all my friends had I was so embarrassed that I didn't have Snapchat because of all of the filters that were going around school. It was like only the cool people had Snapchat at the time. So I got this one app that wasn't restricted, and it was like a sticker app. So you would upload your photo, add a sticker onto it, and I would completely pretend like that would be my fake dog filter Snapchat on my face and send it over iMessage. And if your friends are nice, they won't mind. If your friends are good friends, they'll include you even if you don't have a phone. And you just need to remind your kid of that.
I think that's so, so important. Um, Gosh, it just escaped me. You said something on there that was so important about creativity too, because now we see all this commercialization towards kids too, like telling them how they should act and what they should buy and how they should spend their money, not just how they should spend their time, but it's in this total not reality world. And did you notice that then too about wanting different things when you started having more access?
Yes. Every time I go on social media, I swear especially TikTok, I'm going to relax, I'm going to browse, and then I leave the app wanting everything and more. I'm like, I need to go to this hotel. I want to get married here. I want this designer bag. I want this job in New York and these heels. And it's crazy. But specifically to when I was younger, it was skincare and makeup for me. And I just have to say, take your time. I bought so many products for my skin. I literally was using retinol, I think, because my dermatologist brought it up once and I did a bunch of research and I found this brand that look really cute. The packaging will get you, they'll get your kids, and it thinned my skin. It didn't help me with acne. I think that a lot of kids will use the fact that they'll have acne to want all these products, but less is more, and it's because you're going through puberty. You're not going to have acne forever, and don't damage your skin while you have it because it will go away, and your skin will be so nice if you just use the basic stuff.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. The Wall Street Journal investigative reporting just did an article on that about kids using adult wrinkle cream and retinoids, and they don't need it. And so this phenomenon of, being boundless. The internet is boundless. And we talk a lot about the advances of AI when we do our screen time presentations, because even the social media that you had access to 5 years ago, I mean, it is not the same as it is 5 minutes ago. It's learning our behaviors, it's morphing content to be extremely relatable to us. And this is the phenomenon of social contagion. Why this is happening, that why does everybody want this all of a sudden? Because it used to be wrinkle creams, they were on some old lady, and you're like, okay, well, that doesn't relate to me. Why would I want that? But now they're showing you wrinkle creams that are on someone that looks about your same age, your same skin type, your same hair, your same eyes, acting in a way that it knows you aspire to look or be. So, this desire that it's creating in kids. And we had a great webinar from Children and Screens. One of their experts says teens and children, they want to be part of a group so bad, no matter the cost of acceptance. And so this desire to want things and to be part of something, it's just so destructive, because in the real world you would be limited, and we know that wanting things it harms your psyche, right? Like this desire, going to bed wanting, that's a hard thing.
Yeah. I would say if your kid wants all of these like colorful, cosmetic looking skincare products, just add some stickers, bedazzle the original, the nice, calm, and gentle cleanser, and hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, yeah. And when you're seeing different behaviors in your child too, I mean, really, social media is not safe under 18 right now because it's so boundless. There's adult content, and it doesn't matter how good you're trying to be. Or I hear from parents all the time, like, I trust my child. We talk about it. And there's so many articles that say, oh, parents can just talk with their children or co-use it. That is my biggest pet peeve, because co-using, then the parents catching the same stuff that the kids are. Any
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, my parents spoke to me a lot about privacy online, safety online, and I took it very seriously. I wouldn't like change around any type of computer or phone screen around me because I knew like, oh, someone could be in the camera. And that was already ingrained in my brain as someone that was younger. But things will still happen. I remember one of my friends came over for a sleepover. No one else was home. And we had my laptop out and we went on the site called Omegle. Do you know what that is?
Mhm.
Omegle, do not let your kid on Omegle because we went on thinking it was just going to be other kids our age. We would do jokes back and forth, see if we find anyone interesting. And it was one of the worst nights ever. I knew that people could track your location on your phone, I mean, on your computer if you were on the phone long enough with them. So we would be very quick. We were trying to be smart. We were trying to have our parents in the back of our mind. And there was one person who was kind of covering their screen, but someone our age and someone interesting. And then a minute goes by and he's like, tells me my address that we're at. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it happened to us, we know. And then his voice completely changes. It's very obvious that it's some cryptic, animated voice. And he's like, this man is coming. He's already here. Don't call the cops. And we got my friend's dad to pick us up. There was a van down my street just waiting. It was the scariest night of my life, but that just goes to show that even if you are thinking that you're safe, even if you do talk to your kids, there will still, things can still happen.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's really, really true. And parents don't believe me when I tell them about the sophistication of predators and the inherent unsafeness of all of these apps and the sophistication of predators now. This is a huge business online, and even blackmailing young teen boys now too. They're committing suicide so easily because your brain is just so distraught that you think, oh my gosh, I'm going to disappoint my parents and my friends, and like it's better just to kill myself than to face this, like whatever they're asking. And of course, that's not the case, but the teenage brain is very, very unique and, very, very sensitive and fragile. And that's why we really, especially for kids with neurodiversities on the autism spectrum, they internalize, or very sensitive kids, they internalize, and their psyche really gets harmed by all these different data points, and they're very susceptible to things like that. So thank goodness you guys knew to call someone. But wow, yeah, Omingle, I think, I'm not sure. I'll have to look up and see if it's still, I thought it got barred, but they're constantly having new ones too. And kids, they know all the new ones, they're passing new ones around. So I think that was so smart of your parents to restrict the app store. That's what we always say. You know, you would never just let your child go to a restaurant or a bar or anywhere in public without knowing exactly about it. And then to know the risks and to know your child's sensitivities too, and all their other human benchmarks. So, wow, what a powerful story. And then I also, when I was talking to you before, you were mentioning kind of the competitive new fake nudes that are out now. Tell us about what happened in high school with that, because in San Diego, it's, I mean, I'm sure it's everywhere. I doubt it's
Yes.
unique to San Diego.
Snapchat is an app that was heavily used wrongly in middle school for me, and I know that it's still happening all the time. So, Snapchat is a platform where photos can just disappear after sending or once opening. It's a huge issue when it comes to sharing explicit photos, as someone can imagine. I think the worst part of it is that someone can get pressured into sending explicit photos very easily through Snapchat because they have the sayings of people saying, or the respondent, the one asking for it, being like, it'll go away, you'll know if I screenshotted it. Like, you feel kind of safe and manipulated. So this is all untrue. There are so many ways to surpass this. You can be screenshotted without knowing. It can be shared around everywhere. And there was just so many stories at my school, at all the neighboring schools, where explicit photos went into group chats used as a form of bullying, blackmail, and it's not worth it. It's completely avoidable. I think it's not so much about something that you can warn your kid about. I think it has to be brought up in multiple conversations. Something I said before, even just knowing that you shouldn't be changing in front of a camera, in front of your computer, is one of them. Maybe sharing a story or a fake story of someone that you've known that's been blackmailed, just to kind of really make your kids know that it's very true, because the only reason that I wasn't a part of it is because I didn't have my phone at that time. I had so many friends crying to me, telling me others having complete different reactions that were almost worse and very dangerous. So I think just you have to be extremely careful when it comes to Snapchat. Moral of the story is that bad things can spread very quickly on social media. Parents need to be aware of the apps and which websites their kids are on. Omegle, the website we talked about before, is not an app that you can restrict. It's a website online on your computer. So really listening to your kids' conversations, especially when they're having their friends over, to kind of get on top of it, know what apps are around, make sure that your kids aren't asking or sending. That's the most important thing.
And there's a lot of great new software for parental monitoring too, which I'm sure your parents use. That's how they blocked some apps. And it alerts them if you were sending sexual images or drug use or self-harm, or like my son was into fishing and he'd send a bloody fishing photo and it would send an alert like violence. But it's really necessary, and it's just such a safeguard, because I think kids think twice when they, I mean, that's a fact with studies. They think twice when they know they're being monitored. And then it's also a safety net that parents can have that to start the conversation and say, oh, wow, like something came up. And you know, that's a parent responsibility too. If you're going to allow your child social media access at 16, you have to have the safeguards in place to be able to monitor and see how they're using it, because they could be a very responsible person at 16 that you say, okay, it looks like you can use this well. And the algorithms are so strong when you say that it's very risky to just go and use, even if you are well intended. Did you ever see any incidents of that, or any
Yes,
on
it's
that?
also very scary because once someone has a hold of a photo, you don't know how many people they've sent it to. You don't know in how many people's phones your private photos are in. There could be someone across the street that has a picture of you deep down in their camera roll. You also don't know if these people are way older than you or if they're being sold to separate party websites. So Snapchat was a big thing for middle school. In college, I think it's more blackmail. I've been seeing a lot of people get blackmailed with their own photos, and it's not just directly with them, it's finding it on pornographic websites. So imagine you get sent a video of yourself that was supposed to be private and it's on a website meant for pornography. What do you do? It's so scary, and it's just better to never show parts of your body to a camera ever, whether you're sending it, taking it, ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And even it's gotten so out of control now. We even say sometimes best practice is never to show your face on photos, be posting, pictures of animals and flowers. And I mean, it's so, so risky. And the biometrics too, that, TikTok is spyware. And so even if you're taking private photos, they have access and they can see that those photos are explicit photos. It's like putting your hands in a box. Even though you can't see what's in a box, you can still feel what's in the box. And then they can take those out of the box and then have possession of them. And it's very, very common, very easy. I recommend nobody have TikTok on their phone for that reason. And there's no recourse too, which is the scary thing. If you end up on a porn website, if something happens to you online, if you're wiled away by a predator, if you are blackmailed, the internet is protected by AB 230 still to this day, that you can't sue, and they are not inclined to take down fake profiles or reduce their users because that's how they're profited. So
Exactly. I also think it's good to mention that it's not only explicit photos, it can be images of your child drinking, smoking, or even saying slurs that can get them denied from college. So, this being said, warn your kids, don't be sharing that stuff because a lot of the time people don't even know. There was a phenomenon that went around at my high school where someone had said a slur, but it was actually just a reversed video of them saying a different word. So, just little almost things that are funny back then where people will be like, oh, say this word, knowing that reversed it's a slur, that can be very real with the technology that we have these days and can prevent you from excelling in the real life afterwards.
there's definitely sophisticated software now. Ferretly is one of those that employers can use, colleges can use to screen your citizenship score basically and see all your comment history, all your likes, uh,
Mm.
photos that were
I
posted of you.
don't want to be commenting really nasty things on people's posts, even
Mhm.
if it's a fake account. They can lead it
Right.
back to your phone number.
Right, right. And then, the phenomenon of only having friends online. I have a lot of clients, even some very young ones with romantic relationships purely online with people they don't know, have never met in person. What would you say about that, having encountered people online yourself?
Um, I would say it really depends on who's reaching out. If someone's reaching out to you, that's probably not a good sign. I remember when I was very young and I had Instagram, I would get so many message requests, and that's not okay, especially because I had my young face as my profile photo. There would be so many men in my DM requests asking for pictures of my socks and saying they'd give me $500. And I'd be like, this is so random. I wonder why. Maybe I should do it. It's
Yeah.
$500 for my socks. But I was with my mom when I saw it. I told her about it. She grabbed my phone, was like, so shocked that it was already happening. And no, so things like that, definitely beware. I'd say that friends coming from online, I've had one online friend that was perfectly natural and normal, but I obviously had to know her through mutuals and actually see videos of her and FaceTime and stuff. I think that can be really different when you're genuinely just making a friend of a friend and maybe they live far away. But I'd say stranger danger. If you don't know them, don't talk to them, don't give your information out. It's so crazy. Just being on the phone with someone, they can track your whole address. So better
Yeah.
safe than sorry.
Yes, and the divulging of personal information and just giving strangers your life story, and also the feedback that you're getting from these online people do not have your best interest in mind. We see a lot of times where kids are acting like total thugs online, the way that they talk online, and then in class and to their parents, they're this 4.0, 5.0 student on the whatever team. Did you encounter that? Can you
I'd
speak to that?
say more so now because a lot of my friends are on dating apps now, so they find that a lot of people aren't real, especially they don't use the same photos as the person that is really talking. Um, it's really sad. I feel like it's really easy to get tricked on a platform that you think best. Um, yeah.
So just beware. I think that just the sophistication and the amount of harm that potentially is out there, especially if your child is having any mental health issues, any depression. That finding comfort online is really not the place. And we've written a blog about that. And they do show you depressing content because it engages more. And so you're going online thinking, escapism, but you're actually fed all these things that are making you feel worse about yourself and counteracting. A lot of times I see the parents are doing all these great things to try to help their kids, and then they get online and it's like poof.
Yeah, I also feel like along with the explicit photos, I saw a lot of people sharing photos of self-harm online. Also, just very detailed posts about things that are going on in their life that you may not want when you're older. I think that your truth, things that have happened to you can evolve and you think about them differently as you grow. It's really dangerous to have your set opinion and story written out, especially if it's about your life and your family and things that may not be completely legal or ethical. You should not be sharing that online because your views can change.
Yeah, and your privacy is so important to not overshare. And youth are so sensitive, so susceptible to oversharing because they want that connection. They want people to comment and feel bad for them. But by oversharing, it actually makes them feel worse. And that's something that parents just cannot micromanage. You can't constantly check what your child is posting, what they're saying to someone. Is that a healthy conversation? And it's really helping the brain develop and get past that, puberty stage. Your hormones are everywhere. You're feeling terrible.
When you're having awful fights with your parents and then your kid is running off to their room to FaceTime their friends, like I just can't imagine. It's not a safe place. It's not the truth. It's their feelings in the moment. They're heightened. They might not like you. They might hate you at the moment. So I just think it's best to delay that until they're more emotionally mature, until they can actually learn how to communicate, find their own truth, their own values and opinions. It's really hard when you're still naive and you don't know yourself to have so much of a platform to speak out on other people.
Yes, and to be able to connect with other people too. One of my clients, even an in-person friend that was quote unquote one of their good friends, used the term kill yourself on a regular basis to say like, oh, your parents told you that? Oh, kill yourself. Like kind of fuck off.
Yeah.
And that harms your psyche. And this child had severe suicidal ideation. And we didn't know this until we had the parental software set up and had removed all social media, all gaming, and then gave back the phone with the parental monitoring. And oh, all of this trash talk was coming from supposedly a trusted friend.
Yeah. And then you're showing other people that it's okay to say things like that. Other people who are depressed can be very triggered by hearing something like that. It's just a whole umbrella of things that can just be avoided.
Yeah, with stress is catching and talking and oversharing. It's really, really important to have a good in-person support system of older adults, not just your peers bouncing ideas and problems off of. Awesome. Well, I think we covered so much today. Is there anything else you want to talk about, or any stories that would help?
I think my main takeaway is do not overshare as your opinions and truths might change. Always protect yourself, never send explicit photos, don't even let there be a device around with a camera pointed at you. Just know that time will go on, you'll evolve to be a different and better person, and if your kids are really sad and complaining about social media, just know that it's worth it. It's worth awful things happening to them online. You're saving them bullying, you're saving them insecurities. It's just a whole, like I said, umbrella of things that can go wrong. So really be in communication with your child. There is no set age. You really need to know and understand their confidence rate, how susceptible they are, how naive they are. Maybe do some tests on your own, monitor them when they have social media. I think it was really beneficial for my parents to have that year transition of having a phone versus having social media so I could learn. Your kid will become creative, they'll make their music videos, they'll find the apps that don't have bad
Yeah,
intentions, and you
you're
can
not harming them by keeping it away from them, right?
just make music videos, make songs, just don't. You don't need Snapchat when you're 13. You really don't. So,
Probably don't need Snapchat ever.
yeah, you don't.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sophia. This was really insightful, and I know you're going to help a lot of families. And we're just so thankful to have you sharing your story and look forward to keeping in touch with you and wish you all the best in college. You're certainly, everyone's human and has their ups and downs. And I think that's so important to just embrace our humanity and other people. So thank you
Of
so much.
course. Thank you for hearing me out.